I hope everyone is doing well. I'm Mike Harber, and this is Crash Talk. It's amazing to think that this has been over 10 years since we broadcast Crash Talk, and I think during this time, it's given us the opportunity to bring it back. Um, it's interesting of the thousands of people that we've worked with. I've probably only met just a handful of you all, so I wish I could see you, but you're having a chance to see me. And and I'm wearing my special T-shirt for this time that we're in right now, and it has a double meaning. So, like a good neighbor, stay over there. This whole Okay, so maybe I should start it over again. So, good evening. Maybe that's all we'll have tonight. So, good evening. I hope everyone is well. I'm Mike Harber, and this is Crash Talk. And it's been over 10 years. It's been over 10 years since we broadcast, and it used to be on the radio. It was a live call-in talk show. It was on Progressive Talk Radio. It started in about the early, I think it was the early 2000s. We went through about 2011, and I've had several people, each almost monthly, have asked if we're ever going to bring it back, and I never really thought we would until we ended up in this situation that we're in right now. So a little bit of a surreal situation, I think, that all of us are in. And I'm not going to say some of the things that we hear over and over every night, that we're all in this together. I don't feel like we're all in this together at all. It seems like all of us have our own individual situation that we're dealing with. I certainly feel for the families of 5 or more that are stuck in an apartment. Must be quite a challenge. So anyway, so what Crash Talk was in the past is it was a live radio talk show, and we would usually have a guest each week. We would talk about topics that have to do with insurance claims, total losses, diminished value, loss of use, bad repairs, how to deal with an insurance claim and the matters that go along with an automobile accident. So as I've been sitting, we've been kind of locked down like everybody else here in our state, the state of Washington. I have really trying to give some thought to what we can do to give back to the community, like we see so many other people doing. And one of the things that I'm able to give is some of my knowledge. We're not here to sell anything. We're here to hopefully help you solve a potential problem, or maybe stay out of one, or be proactive, so that if you do have an insurance claim, that you have everything that you believe that you had. And sometimes you find that that's not the case when it's too late. The other part of this is I would encourage people during the week, if you have questions, if you have topics that you would like to have discussed, that you'd send us your question or the topic that you'd like us to cover. We'll do our very best to try to meet those requests. And you can send those to crashtalk@harberappraisal.com. Harber is spelled Harber. Appraisal is singular.com. It seems like a lot of the things that we hear, all of us, and there's 5 of us at Harber Appraisal that are assisting consumers on a daily basis. We're all working remote, and most of the questions that we get are usually the same. It's like people will call and say, we need an appraisal. Well, what kind of appraisal do you need? Is your vehicle, was it repaired, or was it declared a total loss? And so we always review your claim, and we review it no charge to tell you if you have a claim that's worth pursuing. But I have to do one other thing before we get too far. I've been instructed by one of the attorneys that works with me that I need to read a disclaimer before we get started. So I'm going to read it instead of trying to do this from memory. But none of the information provided by me or anything else that's through Crash Talk is intended to be, nor should be construed as legal advice or an interpretation of law. Consumers with questions on matter of law should consult with a licensed attorney. Any information from and/or opinions expressed by yours truly, Daryl M. Harber, I go by Mike, but anything expressed by me, CrashTalk, or guests that are on the show are intended solely as resources to the consumer, and all such information should be verified by a licensed practicing attorney. So I'm not an attorney. We've been working in a very narrow area of the law now for going on 30 years. So most of the information that we give is pretty accurate. But please don't take it as legal advice. Let's see. Other than that, like I said, please send questions. You're able to send us a chat in the chat line at the bottom. And the wind's going to make things a little bit difficult. I'm in here in an open air office, and the wind's going to kick up. It's going to give me another challenge. For all of you that tried to tune in last week, I sincerely apologize. It was quite a fiasco, technical challenges, and it was because I had my hand on the button. So I've completely turned everything over. Nadine, one of my assistants, is manning the show. She's in control of everything that takes place here. So I can't get blamed for not making this thing happen tonight. So I'm just here to just spill my guts, share information with you. If you do have questions, you can send it through on the chat. I'll try to answer. But to start with, I think tonight, especially in the times that we're in right now, I would expect that we're going to find that a lot of people are driving their vehicles without insurance. And that potentially could be a problem for you if you are a citizen that follows the rules. So let me just even start this week out. Let's talk about uninsured motorist coverage. A lot of people are looking for ways to save money right now. And I hear this time and time again where an agent or somebody with an insurance company will say, well, take the uninsured motorist off of the policy. You really don't need that. Well, that's bad advice. And I'll explain why it's bad advice. Because they'll say, what? And I had my own agent tell me the same thing, even with my agent understanding what I do. If they tell you that and they say, if you've got collision coverage, you don't need uninsured motorist. It's just an extra expense. Not true. And here's why. Your collision coverage on your policy is a provision of the insurance that provides coverage for damage to your vehicle if you have an accident and it's your fault. But if you have an accident and it's somebody else's fault and they don't have insurance, you're limited to the provisions of the policy under the collision coverage. And the insurance companies exclude diminished value, and there may be a limit on rental coverage. There may be no rental coverage at all in your policy. Well, then you're stuck, because we'll talk more about diminished value at another time. I know that's a hot topic for a lot of people. But if you have a claim for diminished value and it's excluded under your collision coverage, then you're out of luck. You can't make a claim for diminished value. And diminished value nowadays is a big issue. It can potentially be thousands of dollars that you may lose in the value of your vehicle because it's been in an accident and repaired. So you want to make sure you have proper coverage to be able to address those types of losses that you can't do if you only have collision. Now, let me back up a little bit. The state actually there's a statute for uninsured motorist coverage. And because the state requires you and I to have a minimum amount of liability coverage, which means if I run into your vehicle and I damage your vehicle and hurt you, then my insurance pays for the damage I caused under the liability section of my policy. And that's all I'm required to have by law to drive on public roads. You got to have a license. You got to have proper plates on your car and a license tabs on your car, and you got to have insurance. but you're only required to have the minimum. And like I said, right now, I think a lot of people are going to be on the road with no insurance at all. But because you're required to have the minimum liability coverage, your insurance company, not your insurance company, but the state then requires the insurance companies to offer uninsured motorist protection. So when you buy that, the insurance companies have to offer it, but it's a loser. It's a loser for the insurance companies. They don't like to add uninsured motorist coverage to a policy because they lose money every time there's that type of a claim because there's nobody to go get the money from. If you have a collision claim and you run it through your policy and it's somebody else's fault, when you're all done, your insurance company is going to go recover their money from the at-fault party and their insurance company. It's called subrogation. It's another matter we can talk at another time. But because the state requires you to have minimum coverage, then they also require the insurance companies to offer uninsured motorist protection. Now, if you don't want that, the state goes an extra step farther because they require the insurance company to have you sign a waiver specifically saying you don't want it. They're doing that to make sure it's offered. But my caution to you is that you want to make sure that you have it. For example, in this last several weeks, I've had two people I've tried to assist in their claim where they thought they had uninsured motorist protection, and the insurance companies have come back and said, no, you don't have it. Well, if they say that, then they have to prove it. They have to prove you signed a waiver. There was no waiver. So our clients have it. They have the protection for uninsured motorists. And again, what that provides to you as a consumer is it provides extended coverage. It provides coverage beyond what's just under collision because there's exclusions in the policy for collision. On an uninsured motorist claim, it says you're entitled to everything as if the party that caused the accident with no insurance had insurance. So that's the whole enchilada. That's the full cost of repair. That's your deductible. You get your deductible back. That is diminished value. It's loss of use. It's if you were injured. If you even had personal property in your car, a TV, and it went flying forward and it was damaged. That's part of your claim. So on an uninsured motorist claim, you have all of those same rights with your own insurance company. But if you just had a collision coverage and you made a claim under collision, sure, they're going to pay for the damage to your vehicle, but they exclude everything else. So it's important. And it's very cheap. It's the cheapest coverage you can get. It's the best bargain there is in insurance. So I guess that's one of the things that I would suggest everybody takes a look at your policy. Make sure it's on your policy as part of your coverage. Now, how do you know that? There's a thing called a declaration page, and that's sent to you every year when you renew your policy. And it'll say on there everything that you have. It'll say liability and what are your limits. How much will they pay out before they say we're done? How much for your collision, comprehensive, personal injury protection, uninsured motorist / underinsured motorist. So sometimes on a claim, you may exceed the policy limits for the person that caused the accident. They may have insurance, but you may go through the full amount that is in that policy that they have. And at that point, you'd go back to your insurance company on the underinsured portion of your policy. Very important to have. And I just can't stress that enough. For example, I know the two policies I just looked at, they were like $1,000, $1,200 a year for their premium on their vehicle. The uninsured motorist portion of it was like $24. It's just the best bargain there is. So I think with that, I guess that would be my bit of my recommendation to you in our evening here tonight. I hope everybody stays safe, and I don't